Question is, when you look at the calendar, when you look at the convergence of the legal with the political, how much money this is going to cost as well, does this end up actually being a net benefit on the money side?
He's already eating through so much of his campaign money to cover his legal bills. And again, it's really hard to watch as this self-proclaimed billionaire who arrived in Fulton County on his jet that says Trump, his huge plane, and yet he's asking his donors, his supporters, his loyal fan base to pay for his legal bills. Just the juxtaposition of watching him fly in on his big plane and then also be begging them for $5 donations, it really does. It makes me sad for his supporters who are blindly, giving to him. And they will continue to have to because they're mounting up this year. I believe in the first 6 months of the year, he's already spent well over $20 million on his legal fees and is eating into his campaign funds and is continually, as we've seen, fundraising off of this.
And it's also interesting, he keeps changing lawyers as well. It's kind of an interesting trail of lawyers that have been left behind. I do want to talk about what some of the presidential candidates, the GOP presidential candidates have said. Chris Christie waited no time and minced no words. Here's what he said about the Trump announcement, the campaign announcement of raising all this money off that mugshot.
There's almost nothing anymore that he could do that would surprise me in terms of the ongoing grift. Donald Trump promised the country when he ran in 2016 that he would drain the swamp. Really, all he did was rearrange the swamp.
Okay, so that has been something that a lot of people have talked about, the swamp and trying to, rid the D.C. of the swamp. But to Chris Christie's point, he's been one of the only ones who has been really strong coming up against Donald Trump. Will other Republicans follow?
You're starting to see, beginning in that debate, some Republicans move towards the Christie position. Christie, typical, using big, tough words like grift.
Yeah.
Right. Really. And by the way, later in that interview, got into really specifics about family members and money coming from foreign entities. Right. But the basic point is he is fleecing his supporters to pay for his legal bills, which is a fact. What's interesting to your point is that Nikki Haley started to make similar noises, really saying that, look, this is a distraction. He's the least popular politician in the country, and he's fleecing his supporters. So this is the issue. This is a legal defense fund masquerading as a presidential campaign. This is it, but it's a serious, serious thing that's happening to the country and to the Republican Party. And his donors are paying for it willingly.
Legal, say that again? That was really good.
It is a legal defense fund masquerading as a presidential campaign.
But to John's credit, this is not just another great Avalon line, which he comes at 6 in the morning, remarkably prepared for them, and it drives me insane. But also, it's factual, right? When you actually look at the FEC filings, when the tens of millions of dollars that they spent on legal funds, which were not only just wrecking the super PAC money that they had, that they were trying to ask for it back, but also the campaign money. And if you're a Republican looking towards a general election where the Democrats are going to raise $1 billion plus, $2 billion is the target for the Biden campaign, and you're watching this money just go out the door, Avalon actually has a point here.
Shockingly. Actually, wow. Give the man a medal, John Avalon. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mara. Appreciate you guys.
Well, next,
John Avalon and Mara Gillespie are back with us. Thank you so much for sticking around. This is hard to listen to because the Klan flogging, mutilating, killing, hanging, and he's saying that the first black congresswoman of Massachusetts is the same as the KKK. Who is he trying to get attention, or is he trying to get voters using this kind of trash?
Both, primarily attention. But the idea that reverse racism is the real racism is something that presumably plays to the base. And look, you got to separate this out, right? Your point you're making about any comparison to the KKK, let alone to a black female congressman. The KKK is a terrorist organization. It was a terrorist organization at its inception when former Confederate veterans got together in December of 1865 and used violence and voter intimidation to try to push back the gains that were on paper in the Constitution. That comparison is somewhere between idiotic and just historically awful. Now, you can have a good conversation about, look, identity politics, about the idea that a person's political beliefs should follow their group identity. And that's a good debate to have, not just in Republican primaries, but everywhere. You want to talk about Ibram Kendi and really dig into whether anti-racism actually helps the country heal and move forward. Let's have that debate. But once you start throwing the hand grenades of comparison to the KKK, particularly to a black female congresswoman, it's beyond insulting, and the debate shuts down.
So, Maura, John kind of hits at a key point here. The debate on the issues itself, or the debate just generally, is a totally fine debate to have, and certainly a debate that I think has moved to the forefront over the course of the last 5, 6, 7 years. No question about it. But then listen to Ramaswamy, also in Iowa, say this.
I've never once encountered that yet. I'm sure the boogeyman white supremacist exists somewhere in America. I've just never met him. Never seen one. Never met one in my life, right? Maybe I'll meet a unicorn sooner. And maybe those exist too.
Maura, I think my question is less, look, this is performative and it's intentional and he's doing it for a reason, the same way he was talking about his book and how well it had done in the midst of doing all this. But you've been a Republican staffer, you've been inside a Republican conference as that Republican conference evolved quite a bit over the course of the last several years on issues like this in particular, and I think strategies, hyperbolic strategies like this. Why? What's the play here when you hear something like this?
He's following the Trump playbook to a T. He's watched how far Trump pushed his boundaries, saying that he could stand on, streets in New York and shoot someone, and still he would have his loyal fan base. Ramaswamy has seen that and is testing his own boundaries, seeing how far he can take it. Because let's be honest, he's put $15 million of his own money, maybe even more, into his campaign. And so now he's looking for that free earned media, and he's getting it by saying inflammatory things and really trying to appeal to Trump voters. But what they should be really asking is, if you, Vivek, think that Trump is the greatest president of our time or on earth or whatever he said at the debate, then why are you running? Why are you running against him? What he's really doing here is just trying to get attention, as John pointed out, and he can push the boundaries because Trump can.
All right, Maura, John, there's a lot more to dig into on all of this, including Ramaswamy running against the guy who's the greatest president, in his words, in history, and the attention-getting mechanisms he utilizes. Maura, John, thanks so much, guys.
All right.
Thanks.